Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Joypad Podcast. My name is Tom, and I am joined by two other members of the podcast. If you could guess their names, you would be correct if and only if you guessed Mike once, because there's two of them. Megan will not be joining us tonight. She is recovering from some back pain. We wish her well. She will be back. She does exist. We were all just at her wedding, so we actually have proof that she exists. We actually have pictures of all of us in the same room. Isn't that crazy? All right, well, there's nothing special other than that to talk about on my end. We'll come back to me and what I've been doing later, but let's start with Mr. Michael Pinto. What have you been up to, my friend? What games have you been playing? How you doing? What you drinking? What are your thoughts on three-line conics?
I don't know what three-line conics are, so my opinion is neutral, and I hope that satisfies most of our listener base. I have been I am replaying Resident Evil 4 because I enjoy it. I haven't been doing too many other games, mostly because we recorded a lot of stuff, which I have enjoyed. And most of my time is being put towards editing those videos and such. So that's a good time. I enjoy doing that. And yeah, playing Resident Evil 4. I am now playing on hardcore mode because I cheated a little bit. Well, here's the thing. They give you New Game Plus, so you can carry over like all your upgraded equipment and stuff from your prior run. So
it's hardcore, but not that hardcore mode?
Pretty much, yeah. But it's still difficult. I'm not saying like it makes it easier, but it's not frustratingly difficult like I found my initial run to be. I don't think I've really played much else. We played some Outlast Trials the other night. Tom, you were the sleepy boy that night, so Fleming and I played with Megan. She does exist. There's footage of it. Megan is the cryptid of our podcast now. But yeah,
Joypad Megan. Put it in the cryptid Wiktionary or whatever it's called.
She would love that. She loves cryptids, so she'll be way into it. We played that. We played Raft last week, I believe, after the podcast, or maybe it wasn't. I don't know. We played Raft at some point.
Sounds right.
It was fun, except that we got to Cliff Town or whatever. What's that place called, Fleming? The Caravan
Caravan Village?
Caravan Town.
Cliff Town, Claravan. We got
the big red
there,
dog.
and we kind of got lost. And then I started getting motion sick, so I was like, okay, we need to stop. So next time we play, we'll finish that up. I believe we were almost done. We had the zip lines. I think there was just one more thing we needed to do, and I can't remember what it was.
For a part for the electric cables or whatever.
Something like that.
It was some kind of electric cable part.
Yeah, there was just a lot of vertical movement happening in that part of the game, and I just started feeling a little nauseous. So I called it quits on that, but I'm looking forward to resuming that adventure and getting off that damn island. Drinks. I have water, of course. Hydration is key. And I also have a San Pellegrino Limonata, because I am very fancy. Ready? Grip it and rip it, baby.
Hell yeah.
Oh, yeah. How's that ASMR?
It's good shit.
It's good shit. So, yeah, that's it for me. I'm going to pass it off to Mr. Michael Fleming. How many potatoes have you consumed since the wedding? What have you been playing? What you drinking? And what else is going on?
All right, let me think about potatoes for half a second. I've eaten no potatoes since the wedding.
A cleanse.
We all ate a lot of potatoes at the wedding.
Well, I think we need to explain, because it just sounds weird when you just say potatoes. Like,
it was raw potatoes. We were all shoveling raw potatoes into
We've
our
been playing
faces.
too much Raft. We're just shoving potatoes in our faces.
So the thing is that we all knew there was going to be a mashed potato bar, and that is a new thing that's happened at recent weddings, at least for me. I don't know about you guys, but I was like, all right, I'm down. I want to eat some of those potatoes. But then they also had, like, in their appetizer, cocktail hour, fried potatoes that you could put sour cream on. which is
Potato
just
pancakes.
potato pancakes, which is just delicious. So I ate too many of them, and then I also decided because there was French onion mashed potatoes, which is cheese and onions, caramelized onions inside mashed potatoes. You gotta eat them. So I ate them too, and I ate a lot of potatoes, guys. I'm potatoed out personally. So no potatoes for me in the past couple days. And tonight I am just drinking water out of my Capital One unsponsored. What are these called? I only know the brands like Yeti. It's not a thermos.
Carafe.
Carafe. Yeah, whatever.
I don't think that's a carafe.
I don't know.
Carafe. I'm just sitting there talking from a carafe.
Dude, that's gonna be the wave of the future. It's like doing a keg stand. You do a carafe chug.
Well, it's like the old college dude bros that used to just walk around with gallons of Turkey Hill iced tea all over campus.
That is true. That was a popular thing.
Sir, you used to keep gallons of Arizona iced tea. You wouldn't generally walk around with it, but
actually, the times that he was not at his apartment, he usually brought it around. But he didn't walk around it as like a statement. He just wanted the tea. No. So
I like tea.
Wasn't
all right, we're off on bad tangents, guys. So anyway, I am just drinking water. I am also drinking a little bit of La Croix orange water. It's almost done. So you'll see me sip that for like 2 minutes. That's all I have tonight. Trying not to grab anything else. I actually had some lemonade earlier today, which was pretty good. I haven't had a lemonade in a little bit. So had some lemonade earlier. But anyway, I mean, you guys just heard what I was playing before the podcast. I have only played the Outlast Trials, and I've played quite a few hours of it on my own. It's I wanted to beat the game, and I thought that like to do that you have to play like all the missions. So I played a couple, and I think I said before playing with others kind of sucks, and generally speaking it does, because there's a lot of people who have everything timed out. Like 2 or 3 of them just know what they're doing. They don't talk to you, so it's not really fun to play with those kind of people. But I've also had people who I've joined their games, and they're like, and I probably would have to explain my name, but they're like, who are you? Why is your name this? So anyway, yes, it's been fun when I get people like that. And then one time, and I can't do the voice the guy was doing, but he had one of the bigger guys like beating the crap out of him, and he's like, "Oh shit, this guy's beating me." It was just really funny to me. So I've had some fun people, but I've also played missions myself. They just take a lot longer by yourself, a lot longer, because you got to do everything by yourself. You could have up to like 4 killers chasing you. You can have, like you have to go into like different sections of the map by yourself. So it's not a really fun solo game except for the final mission. That's a pretty interesting one. It's not too hard, but it was definitely confusing because it didn't tell you what to do. You had to figure it out kind of. To some degree, but
I see a lot of disappointment on Tom's face right now, and I'm very curious
I'm
about
sure
this.
Tom's disappointed because I played the game by myself or something.
Yeah, we did nothing but talk about this last time on the podcast about how it's fun to play it together, and you just went off and decided to play it on your own and get to all the final shit without everybody.
Well, so the final mission you have to play by yourself. It's not a team mission. And then in regards to other missions, you guys actually like they reuse maps. You just use different portions of the map when you do other levels. So you really haven't missed much except for a couple of like the objectives in one versus the other. So like one of them is at the fun park, like a carnival, and like there's the option of like, grinding apart the children. And then there's another one that's like you gotta open all the gates and get out of the park. And then there's another one in there too, which I can't even remember off the top of my head. So there's different ways to play the maps, but they all basically have an objective and finish. I just don't play a lot of different games at times. Like I don't go like, oh, I'm going to play this one game for an hour or two, and that's all I play. And then I'll play another game for an hour or two. I just like, if I play a game, I typically just play only that game for a couple weeks. So like, I was playing Raft like crazy, and before that, I was playing Age of Empires like crazy. It's just kind of how I personally operate. And I also don't like being bad at games, as you guys both know. We don't need to cover. I have a problem. So anyway, Yeah, I've learned the game, and I definitely think the game's going to have some patches because people know it too well at this point, and that's that's unfortunate if you want to play it for the first time by yourself. So I would encourage if you want to play it,
Find some
I will
friends.
I will find some friends, and I will also say if your friend knows the objectives and knows like the timing of certain spawns, like I will not tell you what I know could happen because I think it defeats some of the scariness of
Well,
it.
yeah, that's what sucks. I mean, because now every time we're gonna play this, you know all the shit.
Not really, because the thing is that like there's a few times where like characters spawn or like killers spawn, but it's not like Outlast itself where there's and or Resident Evil where there's specific time dogs that charge out at you or a killer appears at that moment. There's like, for example, if you do the church, like one of the church things, right when you finish the church, Mother Gooseberry, who's like the most deadly character in the game, she appears at the doors, and you have to get past her in some way, either running around her or you can stun her or whatever. But like that's not the same in terms of fear as like a guy that's hiding inside of a locker because those things happen randomly. So I don't think it's that bad. And I don't really ever like even the first time we played in Pizza, you just edited the video, so you can tell me if you think differently. But I don't think I was super scared. I think I was just a little confused. I'll
Uh,
take your sense as a yes.
well, the very very first time we played it, like all of us together, we were all pretty we were all pretty jumpy, I'd say. Not I wouldn't say scared because like, it's
Hmm.
not like our lives are in actual danger, but we were pretty jumpy and like, well, what's that? What's that? And freaking out a little bit. Nothing crazy though, no.
Yeah, I don't feel that I ever was super spooked, and I still have those moments of like I'm fixing a generator, and then a guy comes up behind me and hits me, and I'm like, oh god. So that still happens, but yeah, it's a very different dynamic than like a solo player Outlast game. Even friends aside, just playing a solo game. So that's what I've played. I don't think I played anything else for the past few weeks, like 2 weeks or so. Trying to think just to make sure. No, I have not played anything else. Maybe a little bit of Raft, but not a lot. Anyway, that's it. Tom, I think you did not say what you're playing yet, so
No, for I am the speaker man.
you are the speaker man, and I'm sure there is no topic tonight. So what are you playing over there? I
Don't.
believe you what go ahead.
I was
Go
gonna
ahead.
say, don't tempt me to create a topic out of randomness.
Actually, you brought the best topic tonight, and you should share it with the class. So
Okay.
everything's up to you at this point.
Tonight's topic is banana pudding.
Delicious.
Oh, like the one you
Discuss.
can get with the Nilla wafers in it?
Yep,
Hell
that
yeah.
exact
Yep.
one. And it has to have vanilla wafers, otherwise it doesn't count.
That's right.
Yeah, no, I don't have a topic other than banana pudding, which I can't even have right now. It was actually a treat for me when we were at the wedding because I've been on a diet. I've lost like 20 pounds since the start of the year, which is great. But I normally cannot have carbs or sweets or anything. So, anyway, and I'm fine with that. I have been playing a couple games. I played a little bit of Stardew Valley. My thing with Stardew Valley has just been like log in, work the crops, and I'm done for like the day. And I'm like, yeah, that's all right. I did one day. That's fine.
So you're playing it in real time? You're like, you play a day, you're like, well, that was it for today. Guess I'm done.
Basically, it sounds wrong to say, but yeah. I don't know. You get to a certain point in that game where, like, if you've kind of, I mean, when you're in like year 3, there's not that much more to do. If you've already like talked to everyone, and I could go through Ginger Island, but I've already done that in another game, so it's like, maybe I will, maybe I won't. I don't know. Got a lot going on. I've thought about putting in that. What was that expansion you were talking about, Pinto? It's like Ridgeview
Oh,
something.
Richside Village.
Ridgeside Village, yeah. Because it sounds interesting. It sounds like it would add a bunch of stuff. I also just don't know if I'm ready to have my life controlled by Stardew Valley anymore. It's kind of a mercy to have it let go after a little while.
Listen, man,
Um,
that's been my life for the past 5 years or so. I get it.
yeah, it's got a grip. It's you get gripped, you hang in there, and then when it lets go, you say, "Okay, thank you. I can breathe a little bit better right now." Um, but outside of that, I've been playing Gloomhaven, which has been good. I've played like 3 or 4 missions in that, and that's actually somewhat of a feat because
They
each one of
take
those
so long.
takes like an hour. We played that once together, the three of
Yeah.
us.
I do want to play it again. It's just I never
Yeah.
really think about it, honestly.
Oh, and I get that, and it's you have to kind of set aside time for it as well. And even like as a solo player, you have to kind of have that mindset of like, okay, I'm gonna do this. It's like playing a tabletop game, which makes perfect sense. I'm just going to set aside like an hour of my time to do a mission. It's not unlike XCOM in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Like I always feel like that whenever I play XCOM. It's like I know if I start a mission in this, I'm gonna have to spend at least an hour. And I think that's why I have a trouble picking up those games sometimes, is because there's a spot in my brain that's just like I'm locked into this for a while once I
You gotta
start
commit.
it. Yeah. And sometimes I'll pick it up and I'll start it and I'd be like, I just don't want to spend that much time. Like I want that quick hit game. But lately I've had the patience for Gloomhaven, which has been cool. And I'm getting to the point where one of my characters is going to retire and reveal a new class, which will be neat. So, yeah, having fun with that. And then I almost forgot, but my wife and I started Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And it is good. It's a fun game. The one thing I didn't like is the starting area that you're in is very Zelda, where like, hey, you could take any way you want to do to find all of these things, but if you don't do it the right way, you're gonna have a lot of trouble. So there's not really as open-ended an approach as you think there is. And then of course the first, you look for a guide. It's Zelda, you look for a guide. One of the first things we saw was like, here's the 4 things, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you think, okay, I'm near 4. I'll just go for that one. You can't get to 4 until after you do 3, and you go back to the thing and get the answer, and then you come back and do it. Like, okay, all right, it's about damn time.
Thanks, Lizzo.
Yeah, and the other thing is like some of the it's gotten better, and again we're still in the early stages of it. But I had some difficulty putting together some of the gizmos that you do in the game. So basically the premise of this one is there's a lot of like assembling machinery. I think everyone's aware of this at this point. But early on, you're basically given like the ability to put fans on wings and then activate them and go places. So my thought is like, okay, I'm at the edge of this cliff here. I'm going to set up like a plane basically and try and go, and it'll just sit there and do nothing. I'm like, oh really? And it kept happening like that over and over again, and that was kind of ridiculous. But I mean that's just a I don't know, a coming to terms with the mechanics of the game, I guess, and some of the limitations. Because when you see something like that, I think your first instinct is to really say like, wow, the possibilities are infinite. I can do this, that, and the other thing. And then, when you run into the limitations, that's when you go, oh, I thought I was going to have less limitations. It's going to be good. But it's still good. I mean, I ended up in the next area, and immediately there was like a bunch of wood piles. Wood piles is a weird way to put it. It's like sides of a wooden crate. So like if you assemble it, you can put together a cart with wheels on it and everything. And I essentially made like instead of putting it together the right way, I put it together sideways. So like I had a floor, I had 2 sides in the front and the back, and then a ceiling. And then I put a flamethrower on the front of it and a fan on the back. And I don't have a steering wheel or anything yet. So just go driving head on into things, shooting fire at them. It was pretty fun. And then I used a weapon that was too strong to activate my fan, which was on the other side of the board, and broke the entire fucking thing. So
trial and error, baby.
It's entertaining. I got to give it up. Nintendo always finds some way to make a game like that more interesting. Because I will say I was watching the Game Grumps playthrough of Sonic Frontiers, a game that I will probably never play myself, and it was just like, hey, here's Breath of the Wild but boring. And I was like, oh, but I could have you tried playing Breath of the Wild?
Breath of the Wild, but Sonic.
Yeah. It just like empty. Like for the most part, like there's nothing going on in it except for there's random like Sonic rail loop things all over the place. It's like how strange. I don't know. It doesn't look terrible, but it just looks strange to me. If you're a Sonic fan and you really love that game, write to us at joypadpod@gmail.com and tell me why I'm a jerk. But yeah, that's basically it for me. I'm excited to play more of Tears of the Kingdom this weekend. In non-video gaming news, I am starting an RPG Starfinder game this Friday, so tomorrow as we record, with my friends from Texas, and I will be giving them the setting and creating characters. I'm excited to get that going. I am exploring using Roll20 for that. I haven't used Roll20 in a while. And despite its learning curve, I am finding a pretty good way to get everything set up. And I don't know if you guys have done this, but my good friend Mark is running another D&D campaign. Actually, we're using Savage Worlds, I think. But we're playing an RPG, basically, and he's using the Midjourney art AI generator to create portrait representations of characters. So I kind of took that idea, and I'm doing the same thing for this. And it takes some trial and error, but it's kind of nice to kind of be able to create a visual representation of what you want people to see in some of these characters that they're interacting with. And, it's not the same as like creating your own game and actually getting an artist to do all that kind of stuff and everything, but it adds a little extra flair. So I think that's been nice too. So I have my hands full dealing with all that stuff. And Pinto, you know how it is working on a game for an RPG and making sure that there's enough content to go around. And
yeah, don't do what I did. Don't fail. Don't just be like, I don't know how it ends and then give up.
You didn't fail. You can always pick it back up.
There's too much pressure now. Too much.
Just gotta open the valve.
Break the seal.
Break the seal. So, yeah, I don't know. I've been really kind of into the concept of the tabletop games and the video games as tabletop games. I still would like to see more of those. I actually saw there was a big sale on the Warhammer franchise recently on Steam, and it ran through my mind to buy some more of those, but I think it's Tacitus is the one that I have, and I'm gonna double check to make sure that I'm not lying. No, it's not Tacitus. It's Gladius and Mechanicus. God help me, strike me with a lightning bolt, Games Workshop, whatever. But I have enough of those games right now, and I'm in a point where I'm kind of like not playing a lot of the games that I have. I don't know if I regret to say, but like my collection of board games continues to increase. Not just by like things that I'm actively buying. I did buy Mage Knight. I forget if I talked about that the last time we were on the podcast. And The Witcher Old World was delivered recently. But I have so many that like haven't been opened yet, and I'm kind of just putting myself on a freeze unless I see something that's like, oh, I've really wanted that, which is kind of what the case was with Mage Knight. So I'm just putting myself on a freeze with that stuff because I really need you guys to like come over and play board games so that we can make that happen. But aside from that, I really like the idea of being able to engage with those in the video game sense as well. I was playing around with Tabletop Simulator to some extent and wasn't super into it, but I like the idea. I mean, have you guys touched any of those?
I've played some games through Tabletop Simulator, not like tabletop RPGs, but right around the start of the COVID times, my friends and I would play like Settlers or games like that. I think we tried playing Dead of Winter at one point, and like it just felt super clunky.
It's super clunky.
So, like, I actually think that playing a tabletop RPG might be less complicated than playing, you know, just a board game that has tons of tokens or tons of pieces. Because, obviously, an RPG is more theater of the mind, and you might just want to have your layout there for, battles. I don't know, I don't know how your system works, but if there's things like battles where you need to be in range to do certain things, or there's obstacles or things like that, it just kind of helps more people who are more visually oriented kind of figure out what they're going to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And I saw they have a ton of board games that you can get through there. I think Dead of Winter for sure. I think Zombicide and some other ones I've seen on there. But even with tabletop RPGs, I found it hard just to like grab the dice and throw them, or like to change a little aspect about what's going on in there. And I'm sure, again, it's one of those things where there's a learning curve because they try to make it such not open source, but like open-ended software. And a lot of what I was trying to do was to set up Starfinder, which I don't think was as supported as other games. There's no official package for it. But some people had done like a decent job with a table kind of thing. And it's just, I don't know. It's tough. I'm surprised there aren't better solutions to things like that in a day and age where we have amazing games. Like we have Axis and Allies has its own video game. We have Twilight Struggle. We have, even we have simpler things like the Game of Life or Settlers of Catan, the 3-person game with the funny acronym that I don't remember, but I'm going to look up. Catan Universe. That's what it's called. I don't know. I would just like to see that more generic tabletop grow.
Agreed. I concur.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I also really I will play them if that's the only way I can play. But if someone said to me, and computer issues aside, if someone said to me, "Here's a Access and Allies board game," or "Here's an Access and Allies computer game," which would you play? Or even Twilight Struggle, I would almost rather play the board game version than the computer game version, simply because I feel like you're more engaged with the people that you're playing with in a board game setting. So like,
yeah.
I personally would always go towards board game if I can make that work. Now, of course, you can't always because, in our case, we live 2.5-ish hours apart each. So it makes it more difficult in that regard. So I would probably, there's like you got to compromise, but I'd almost always prefer a tabletop version. Like if you guys live 10 minutes down the road and you're like, hey, let's play some, board games. Let's play some online board games. Like, no, just come over. We'll play it now.
Well, yeah.
Like, that's my perspective on it, I guess.
Oh yeah, of course. No, I agree with that 100%. It's always better when you can get together in person. I mean, even like, I feel like even with video games that you can play, it's better in person than over the net. Like when we used to do like Brood War and we would be like in the same room or like near each other or something like that. And, we would finish a game and someone would be out. And I remember Pinto running over to your room and just watching as you made your way through the wall of stupid cannons that I had in that one game. Things like that.
Long game.
Where it was dumb. but having that experience is really big. Like, and it's interesting because we live in that era of like remote work versus office work, and I am a remote worker, and I am staunchly opposed to going back to the office full time or anything like that. But in terms of manifesting those relationships with my friends and getting together, like, yeah, I want us to be in person as much as we can. Like, that's how I have the best time. And it doesn't. It goes back to like couch co-op. Like, I really enjoyed the couch co-op of a lot of games. It's why I still have more fun playing like Mario Party together on the Switch and paddling the boat as best we can to get down the rapids. Rather than some other games we would play online.
It's funny you mentioned just like the co-op on the couch, because like I remember the days of like Halo and like Call of Duty original, or maybe not Call of Duty, but like those kind of games originally, where it's like you're sitting on the couch together, you're playing this game, a death match of Perfect Dark from the N64, for example, against computers. Like that was the greatest stuff ever. But like I just like I don't get that same experience doing it online.
No.
It's not the same. And I mean, I've played games with people who I would consider good friends that are like those kind of games, but still just not quite the same. And I don't know if it's an age thing. Over time I grew out of it or what, but I just agree with you that in-person games are generally speaking better. And for me, the more physical action I have with the game I'm playing, the better too. So I like the idea of rolling the dice versus like pressing roll dice and then I get 2 6s there. It doesn't feel the same as when I actually throw the dice out myself.
Yeah, there's something about board games where holding the dice is like, and rolling the dice is a semi-magical thing. Mm-hmm. Like anything could happen, but you still kind of feel like you're in control of it. And yeah, I don't know if I want to say I'm fascinated by that, but I do kind of love that feeling. And that's like why when I go to a casino and I'm playing a game or something, I think that's why I like playing craps. And, I'm on record as saying Settlers of Catan is just craps at lower stakes. But I don't know. What I'm thinking of is the couch co-op experience that I think connected with me the most was in my later mid to late high school years. My good friend Tim, him and his brother and one of my other friends would bring their Xboxes over, and we would play Halo on like 8-player co-op on like 2 TVs next to each other. And that was like, that's fun, right? Like it's fun when everybody in the room, everybody's laughing and like, or going like, oh, and you can just have that immediate feedback to one another in the same space. It's just fun. And he's having a bachelor party around Labor Day weekend, and I like all those people are coming, and I know we're just gonna like bring Xbox and play Halo like the same way. And it's like I'm just so excited by like going through that nostalgia trip and reliving that sort of experience, because we just don't get those opportunities to do that kind of thing as much anymore as the 30 somethings that we all are. But I don't know. I wonder if the youngins of the world are missing out on that kind of experience. If having just the online only experience is to their detriment, or if they're still getting some of that from the Nintendo games with like Mario Kart and Mario Party, and if they're kind of thinking the same way.
I do not know enough people between the ages of 15 and 25 to answer that question, and that's probably for a good thing.
No,
but no, I don't. I have 2 younger, a niece and a nephew, but they're not big into like games like that I can really, point to. So I think I think it's probably one of those where like as you get older, it just gets harder to kind of make those things work. Your friends are potentially more distant or just busier, so like it's harder to get them in person with you. So that's probably something else to think about too. But I would be curious to know if like they are missing out on like experiences like a Mario Party, a Mario Kart, or even more so like things like Rock Band. We didn't mention that.
Oh yeah.
like the concept of being able to play a video game but have some kind of physical interaction with the game as well with all your friends in the same room. Like that was pretty cool. Like could you imagine playing Rock Band, the three of us, or with Megan, the four of us, but we're all in our own separate place playing it? I just don't think
That
it would
feels
land.
sad. It
Yeah,
feels
it doesn't.
sad.
It wouldn't land nearly the same.
I think
So
there is an online mode for it, like
I've
too.
never used it.
I'm
Yeah,
sure there
like
is, but no.
I can't
Well,
imagine. Like,
here's the thing. I have two potential solutions for us to at least find out more information about this. Number one, we start going into public lobbies of games using voice chat and just go, "How old are you?" No,
I'm two.
you're not into that idea.
You're 15. Perfect.
Exactly. I just want to ask you some questions. That's it. That's all.
Have you ever seen a grown man naked?
Oh God, no. That's not the direction I was going. But
Okay, that's not actually what I'm going to ask. That's from Family Guy. So yes.
my other solution is this one could actually work out. Just go on Craigslist and go into the personals and say you're looking for gaming buddies. In-person gaming buddies. Be like, hey, I just want to play the endless set list in Rock Band 2. I want to beat it.
Yeah, but Pinto, like, would you ever actually do that?
No.
Like,
no.
I just can't imagine the people that would say yes are the people that I'd want to play games with. Like, I know that sounds horrible and very stereotypical of a community that we all love, but like anybody who goes that route, I don't know. I don't know if that would work. I mean, I've seen people on on Facebook do stuff like that, being like, "Hey, I'm new to the area, I'm 27 and like between 25 and 30 and 40, let's say, maybe 35. It's very hard to make friends unless they come through your children. I always personally think that. Or through
Yeah.
work. And so when you're not in office, that can be even harder. But yeah, I've seen that people do that, and like I go look at their profiles, men or women. I'm like, I don't think you'd be the kind of person I actually would want to be friends with. It'd be one of those, it's like, yeah, we can get coffee and talk and like get to know each other or whatever, but I think it would not actually turn out to be somebody who I want to be friends with personally.
A sustainable relationship.
Yes, exactly.
I remember having a conversation with Matt from E-Town when I moved to Dallas, and he was talking about how he made friends through like meetup groups and stuff down there. And I don't know, just like the thought of doing that is like frightening to my introverted soul, the part of me at least that is in there.
Well, that's also the other problem. All three of us are very introverted.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I don't even think I would say it scares me. Like, I can meet new people. That's fine. I think the problem is, for me, it'd be exhausting. Like,
Yeah.
you know how people talk about your social battery and all that? Like,
Yeah.
so the day before the wedding, I met up with, like, most of the wedding party and their respective spouses, etc. So there were, like, 13 people. And I know you met some of them or saw some of them in passing. I love my friends, but a lot of them have very loud personalities and voices. So like by the end of that night, I was just like, I gotta go. I need to go home and listen to the sounds of silence, not the song, just the sound of literal silence.
Although that will also work. Simon and Garfunkel represent.
Yeah, but
I
like,
think all three of us are that way.
Yeah, but like the actual event was great because like, everyone kind of just mills about and like you talk to this person, they're like, oh, I'm gonna go get a drink, and you're like, okay, cool, I'm gonna go talk to this person now. So
that does also help because I've been in situations where I'm talking to the same person for a long time and they're like trying to get to know me because they're very extroverted and they ask like tons of questions. I'm like, oh my God, please stop asking me questions. I can't, I don't want to say anymore because of the person that it is. Not that they'll listen to this podcast, but just it would be wrong of me. No, you guys don't do this. And I was actually going to say something else in a moment. But yeah, I'm totally there with you, Pinta, that my battery after that discussion was like drained. I was like, I just want to go take a nap. I'm so tired now. But what I was going to say is to give people context of how introverted the three of us are, and I put Megan in this too, but she's not part of this comment. We all didn't get to know each other by just like walking up and saying hi to each other. Someone who is extroverted, the extrovert was like, "Hey, you three would all be friends. Come to dinner with me," and he set it up. We didn't do it ourselves.
And then he disappeared.
And then he disappeared. Yep. 3 months later, he was gone.
And then 2 years later, he showed up once or twice and then disappeared again.
Yes.
That's true. He did come to some of our gatherings, bringing the worst alcohol with him.
Montezuma Tequila, please sponsor us.
Please don't. I don't want your money.
He wished me a happy birthday this past year. I was very happy to see him. Yeah, it's I don't know. It's interesting because I'm probably the most extroverted of us, I would possibly say. But my wife is massively introverted. And we were at the wedding together, and boy, by the time we left, which was still a little on the earlier side, she was like, me need go now. And I was like, okay, I can see this. We need to get you out of here. And then I think the whole rest of the day after, Fleming and I met for breakfast with his wife as well. And then the whole rest of that day, she slept on the car ride home and was just out that day. Hey, that's fine. How you get your juice is how you get your juice. But it's, I don't know. It does make it harder to make friends when you're that kind of person. But it does help too. I brought up the meetup group before. I have known people who have like made friends through like gaming communities that will get like set up through libraries or something. And when you kind of like commit yourself to something like that, especially when you're in a situation where you don't have many friends immediately nearby, that can really kind of help you out. I've made reference to my friends from Texas. We moved to Texas and I knew nobody. I have one cousin who's out there, and I didn't even know he was out there until we moved there. And then he was also working very late nights, and I just didn't get to see him that much. And he's a great guy. I wish I saw him more. But I ended up making friends because through my wife's company, she had friends who were starting a D&D game, and she just was like, "Oh, my husband plays D&D. Get together." And now I would say they're very good friends, and we've been playing D&D games for like over 5 years at this point. So I'm glad to have those people as friends, but it's hard to find to make that initial commitment and to find people to do that with.
May I tell a little story? It doesn't
go for it.
We're pretty far off gaming right now, but whatever, who cares? We don't talk about video games all the time. So, as you guys well know, I took what some might call a gap year in my college career, aka I got kicked out. But
he was doing the drugs.
Yeah, totally. No, what I want to get at is in a very out of left field thing for me. During that year off, I went, you know what? I've got a lot of free time because I'm a failure right now. I was planning on going back to college, but for that year, I was like, I got to find things to do to take up my time. Got to work, blah, 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 whatever. I was like, I'd like to form a band. So I went on Craigslist and I put up an ad saying, "Hey, y'all." I didn't say "hey, y'all" because I don't actually say y'all ever, but I'm a guitarist and I'd like to join a band. Let's do this. And someone responded. And I went to some fucking random stranger's house in Pittston, and I got there, and he had an ankle collar on because he was under house arrest.
Oh.
And we were in bands together on and off for the next, 8 years. So it kind of worked out, but boy, looking back on that now, I'm like, what was I doing? What the fuck?
I don't recall hearing that ankle collar.
I never heard that. What?
Yeah, he was under house arrest. I'm not going to say any names. I don't think he listens to the podcast, but yeah, that was probably my most adventurous thing I've ever done, socially speaking. And it kind of worked out.
But you also
met a lot of cool people through that.
Yeah. You had a mission in mind too, in that you because I don't think I would go like I don't think I'd post being like, hey, I want to play, tabletop games with people. Like I don't think I would do that personally, but I feel like with something a little bit more specific, like I want to join a band, it to me feels a little bit more whatever. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong because like when I was running in like incredible amounts, I may have done it, but they also still didn't even live that close to me. It was still going to be a significant commitment to do that. I would have had to drive like 30 minutes before running for an hour just to drive 30 minutes back home. Like that's like I was like I could just spend the 2 hours running instead. That's kind of how my mindset worked. But that's also a very solo thing. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
I just remembered a similar story, Pinto. It doesn't go as far as the ankle monitor, but I don't know if I even ever told you guys about this, but back in college, my first girlfriend in college, she had this interest in finding a club to play the game of Go, like the ancient Chinese game of Go. And I guess she knew it a little bit, and there was allegedly a club in Lancaster. So she really wanted to go to this. I was like, all right. So there's an address, and we drive around, and we get to it, and it's just this hoodie little house by like the train tracks. Like it has no official signage on it whatsoever. It's clearly just like some dude's house, and maybe it's fine. Maybe like they just play Go in his basement or something, and it's fine. Or maybe he has murder devices down there set up to rend flesh from the body. I don't fucking know. But all I know is we got there and I went like, yeah, no, we're not fucking going in here.
Let's just go get some ice cream and go back to school.
After this, I want to know what exit that's off of because I think I might know that. Okay. If you had an idea, because I think I might know the house you're talking about.
It wasn't even like an area we would frequent because it was still a drive into like Lancaster City from where we went to college.
Wow. Okay.
And I was like, where the fuck are we? Like this is the dumbest, sketchiest thing ever. And yeah, I mean, you got to be careful. Like if you're meeting up with people you don't know, definitely be careful. They might be wearing an ankle monitor.
Yeah,
you might end up
maybe not
don't go to their house.
That's what I say. And maybe not go to their house.
If I hadn't gone to his house, I wouldn't have been able to meet him.
That's true. And I bet,
I bet
you, if you had said, "Hey, do you want to meet at at a local coffee shop first to like kind of meet or whatever," and then you're like, okay, or maybe the park or something. I don't know, wherever you play guitar. Like, you would have
got an ankle monitor.
I got an ankle monitor. You would have been like, yeah, maybe you're not.
I'm good.
Yeah. I did not hear either of these stories before, so I just learned something at the same time as the podcast. Do I have anything?
Yeah, I was like, where's your story?
What randos are you meeting around Amish country?
I'm trying to think. Oh, around Amish country. I mean, I've never done something like that, I don't think.
I'll give one other one. When I was like 16, there was a music store nearby, and they had like an online like bulletin board, and there were some like-minded, similar age kids that I wanted to like go play guitar with because they were forming a band.
Mm-hmm.
So like I had like talked to them for a while, and I think they wanted someone to sing too. So I was into that, and I said, oh, okay, cool, yeah, I'd be up to like meet you guys and hang out and get this put together. And my dad was like, stranger danger, no, you can't do it. I was like, oh, so that bummed me out a lot, but. My good buddy Nate actually ended up meeting up with them, and then he ended up being their guitarist for a number of years. And then my friend Dan also, through Nate, became their bassist for a little while. So it's like, yeah, it was fine. Like it was all legitimate. They were all same age, fine people.
No ankle bracelets?
No
ankle bracelets, not at 16.
I think the only one I can think of was maybe it was like freshman or sophomore year of high school. Probably not freshman. It was probably sophomore. I was playing a lot of Counter-Strike 1.6 at the time, and I wanted to go to a LAN center because there was a LAN tournament, but I only had one friend that played Counter-Strike. So me and him, concocted the plan that we both meet up there and find other people and like, set up a team so we could play in the tournament or whatever. My mom was having was so upset about this idea. She's like, "You want to go where?" And like, she's like trying to look this place up and like is not sure. But I'm like, "Mom, my friend from high school will be there. It's not like completely random people." I was like, "I have a cell phone. I can call you if I need to come home." So we go, and we were hoping to meet people. And what happened was 10 people ultimately showed up, two groups of 5 friends. So we couldn't really play. But I just remember when I kind of like walked up to one of them, and it was like my extroverted moment of like, "Hey, I'm pretty good at Counter-Strike. Can I play like as your fifth or whatever? Or can we play as your fourth and fifth?" But I think there was already 4, but I can't remember for sure. I basically said, "Can I play?" And the guy was like 26 or somewhere around like 25, 26. He looks at me. He's like a foot taller than me. He goes, "Nah, bro." So after that, I just got to watch, and I was definitely better. I was a better player than them. Just watching them play versus like me play. It was cool to see because like it was my first LAN thing in person. Like I said, we were like 15 or so. But my mom was upset. She like came to visit, or came afterwards. She's like, "So did you play?" I'm like, "No, I didn't have friends."
Oh,
I told my mom. She probably doesn't remember this, but yeah, there for like 3 hours. We played like a couple of games, like other games on like the LAN computers, and spent like $15, but we didn't have people to play. So that's my best story that I can think of. But I didn't post anywhere. We were just hoping to run into people around our age to play with, and no one actually came, unfortunately, aside from the 10 players. So yeah, that's my story.
I mean, I did actually play Brood War quite a bit back in high school, like before I started playing it with you guys. I was never great at it because we always did like not even use map settings, but fastest map possible or big game hunters or I think there was like the smallest map possible, which God that was fucking terrible. I don't know why anyone ever thought that was fun. But to branch off of that, I did happen to run into one of those guys I played with after high school. And like he was one of those guys that like I kind of played games with, but we weren't super close. Or after we graduated, we just kind of lost contact with each other. Again, not going to use any names. Daddy listens to the podcast. Be weird if he did. But he will know exactly who he is if he hears this story, because I ran into him at a Taco Bell, of all places. And I do think this was, I don't know if it was during the year I took off or if I was just home for a break or whatever. But I ran into him. It's like, "Hey, man." I was like, that awkward, like, "Yeah, we used to talk, and now are we going to try and catch each other up over the past 2 years? No, he just said, "Hey, man, I got my penis pierced. Do you want to come see it in the bathroom?" And I was like, whoa.
I don't ever want to see another man's penis, whether it's in the bathroom, pierced, or otherwise.
And in a Taco Bell bathroom, of all places, just like...
Yeah, at least take it to a Wendy's. Yeah. That'll make it better.
Now, this might say something about our friendship, Pinto, but that story I have heard before. So
I think I have too.
Yeah. So that's an interesting one to put out there.
Yeah, that I did not take him up on that offer. I took my chalupas and went home. Because who eats in the restaurant?
I don't know, man. It's Taco Bell.
Once you're past the age of 18,
I think maybe if you're like on a road trip, it's acceptable. Like if you're on the road for like 10 plus hours, that's acceptable. But you're also probably not going to be stopping at a Taco Bell. You'll stop at a more restaurant-y type place, like a Perkins perhaps, or a Cracker Barrel.
Yes.
When I was in high school, we used to eat at the Taco Bell. Like, we used to swing in and just eat at the Taco Bell.
That was high school. You were looking for any excuse to not be home.
Yeah, exactly.
That's definitely different.
That's a $2 excuse.
Especially Taco Bell. It's like hard. Who eats a taco while driving, for example? You just can't. At least I don't think you can.
You can. It's a messy experience.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
That's why if you're gonna eat and you stop at Taco Bell, you just get burritos. Don't get tacos. Burritos are contained.
Anything in a wrap.
That's right.
Because we stopped by the Wawa before we went up to the wedding and got My wife got a hoagie, and I thought about getting a hoagie. Instead, I got like an egg sandwich and a bagel, which works okay. You can eat that. I ate it in the parking lot before we left, but I was like, I definitely cannot eat a hoagie while driving. Like, that is not going to work out.
Yeah. I once tried to eat a quesadilla, and that was tough.
While driving?
While driving. We're in a really weird place in our podcast.
Yeah. No, listen. We got to where we got to. Okay, that's how we work these days.
If anyone's still listening, they're definitely like invested in our story.
Yeah,
hell yeah.
Like if you made it this far, we haven't talked about video games in the past 30 minutes. So
about that,
a little bit.
About
that's why I mentioned StarCraft. I was like, let's bring a tiny little bit of video games into it before I talk about how my friend asked if I wanted to see his dong.
His J-Dog, perhaps?
Yes.
Hey!
He asked if he wanted to see his battle cruiser. Oh, God.
He wanted to show his big battle cruiser.
His Yamato cannon.
His Nidus worm.
Oh, okay. All right, Tom, please end it. End the podcast.
There's the end of the podcast. All right. Hey, if you like listening to this kind of crap, you can check us out at joypadpod.com. You can find all of our stuff on all the wonderful podcast utilities that are out there. Mostly Spotify, because who the hell uses anything else? People use Stitcher. I don't know why. Who are you? Are you
Apple
listening
Music?
to this on Stitcher? Write us at joypadpod@gmail.com. We are posting a bunch of videos on the YouTube channel because we've been playing more videos. So watch some Outlast Trials, some Rafts, and whatever else we got going on up there. Maybe we'll have Gloomhaven at some point. I don't know. Would people want to watch that? I feel like chess nerds would watch us play Gloomhaven. Anyway.
What if we played it in character? I do believe I named my character Marky Mama Popo. So
I forgot about that. I don't know. I feel like that would be a difficult task because so much of it is just moving from space 1 to space 2 and attacking things.
I'll just throw in some epic like battle music in the background.
They are actually creating a tabletop RPG for Gloomhaven, which I think is a great idea.
Already a tabletop game though?
It's a tabletop game that's basically a tabletop RPG, but they're adding like all the RPG elements to it. So like, NPCs doing different types of like checks and interactions. The way D&D is set up, but like Gloomhaven, and they have some cool like species and classes and stuff. So I think it'll probably be good. I'll probably invest in it. But anyway, that was my way of saying Gloomhaven's cool. Even if it's mostly combat focused when you're playing the game. I will actually be waiting for them to make Frosthaven as a video game too. It is really fucking hard to play as a board game for anyone who's listening. I did it. It's hard. Anyway, this is the end of the podcast. Not listen to Tom keep on rambling. So do your best to find some gaming time with your friends, whether it's online or in person, but see if you can find some in-person time. It's always kind of better. And if you can find some board game time, if you're into that, that's awesome as well. So whatever you can do in those things to keep friends, make friends, do all of that, and that will definitely help you stay joyful. Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.